Chosen one, haven't you noticed an unsettling pattern? Every time you take a significant step forward or experience a moment of profound healing and inner peace, someone within your immediate family circle seems to react with a peculiar sense of discomfort or sharp irritation. This isn't just a coincidence. It's a persistent, frustrating phenomenon that chips away at your joy and momentum. What if the most profound source of spiritual depletion and energy drain in your life isn't coming from the anonymous strangers and external conflicts you expect, but rather from an influence inside your very own bloodline? This is the truth your soul is ready to acknowledge. The unexpected source of spiritual drain, chosen one. Before we delve deeper, just breathe for a moment and allow your body to relax. What I'm about to unveil is a silent, profound truth that your spirit has been urgently trying to convey to your conscious mind for what feels like an eternity. You've been carrying a persistent feeling of weariness, a deep, unshakable fatigue that no amount of sleep can fully resolve. You've felt an inexplicable heaviness descending upon you, often during moments that should be filled with peace, gratitude, and lightness. This sense of being utterly drained persists, even when your day was outwardly uneventful. A recurring, quiet thought has been surfacing. Something in this equation simply doesn't add up. Many chosen ones navigate their lives constantly fighting an internal, spiritual exhaustion they can't accurately define or locate the source of. This battle is particularly confusing because the true enemy or source of the leak isn't a clear threat standing outside your protective walls. Instead, it's often someone seated right at the family table, a person who shares your lineage and calls you family. This individual, whether they realize the full impact of their actions or not, pulls on your spirit using invisible, silent forces, subtly leeching your vitality. The most dangerous aspect of this dynamic is its camouflage. It rarely presents itself as a deliberate, obvious attack or confrontation. The spiritual draining manifests in ways that are deeply misleading, which is why it's so hard to confront. It shows up ingeniously disguised as sincere concern, cleverly wrapped up in unsolicited advice, maliciously hidden within sarcastic jokes, or often simply buried under the dismissive excuse, "That's just how they are." These are the deceptive masks that are designed to make you instantly doubt your intuition, compelling you to immediately silence any feelings of discomfort, ultimately protecting individuals who have consistently failed to protect your internal peace or spiritual health. Yet, you need to understand that the divine is actively exposing this dynamic right now. The purpose of this divine exposure is not to force you to create distance or to cut off all ties indiscriminately. Its true intention is to deliver you from the invisible, suffocating grip of a spiritual drain that has been strategically weakening your life's purpose, frustrating the timely arrival of your blessings, and perpetually clouding your clarity and decision-making. God is meticulously pulling back the curtain so that you can gain a clear, uncompromised view of who fuels your spirit with positivity and support, and who feeds off it by extracting your peace. What you are about to receive isn't random suspicion or baseless paranoia. It is a clear, undeniable revelation of truth. These revelation signs are often subtle, nearly imperceptible to the untrained eye, but once your spiritual eyes are open to them, they become impossible to unsee. Pay close attention, because the third sign we will discuss provides the definitive explanation for why your energy field seems to collapse, and your mood drastically drops even after a conversation with this person that lasts merely 2 minutes. Before we proceed to the signs, please take a moment to hit the like button on this video, subscribe if you haven't yet joined this community, and most importantly, comment 99. That specific number symbolizes divine alignment, the precise moment when God fully confirms the deeply held truth your spirit instinctively knew, but your logical mind couldn't articulate. 1. The silent energy shift. Your mood drops for no logical reason. There is a precise moment every chosen one will inevitably experience, but only after years of painfully blaming themselves for the resulting uncomfortable feeling. It is that sudden, inexplicable heaviness that descends upon you the very instant a specific family member enters your immediate physical space. One minute you are centered, feeling perfectly fine, calm, optimistic, and hopeful about your future. The next minute, your chest tightens, your mind begins to fog up, and a quiet, insistent voice within you whispers, "Be extremely careful now." In an attempt to maintain normalcy and politeness, you try to logically shake it off. You immediately begin a cycle of internal questioning, telling yourself you must be overreacting, being overly dramatic, or simply misinterpreting the entire moment and their presence. But you must realize that your spirit is never confused about energy. Chosen ones don't passively feel the vibes. They possess the innate ability to discern entire atmospheres. They immediately pick up on the subtle, energetic cues that everyone else instinctively ignores or misses. When an individual carries a heavy spiritual weight, harbors unresolved resentment, hidden internal darkness, or carefully masked malicious intentions, your spirit is the very first sensor to detect the threat. This shift happens with extreme speed, often so quickly that you lack the necessary time to fully process why everything inside you suddenly feels off. 1 second, the atmosphere feels inviting and warm. The next, the perceived temperature drops without any actual change in the physical air. People often inexplicably stop talking. The shared energy becomes physically thick, almost as if the very walls of the room are holding their breath in anticipation. Even your internal creativity, that powerful divine spark deep inside you, seems to flicker and dim, as if it's autonomously protecting itself from something entirely unseen. You've perpetually wondered, why does this specific emotional reaction occur every single time they are around me? You ask yourself, why do I feel so profoundly drained before they even speak a single word? Why do my shoulders instantly tense up the moment I hear their footsteps approaching? You question why your intuition suddenly gets louder and more insistent, even while your rational mind tries desperately to remain polite and composed. This is not a mere case of social awkwardness or basic personality clash. It is certainly not just complex family dynamics at play. This is pure spiritual interference. Their mere presence forcefully disrupts the peaceful atmosphere you've cultivated because their internal spirit is fundamentally not aligned with the high vibrational frequency of yours. And you must accept that energy, real, spiritual energy, never lies. When an individual is internally saturated with personal chaos and turmoil, it inevitably spills into the surrounding space. When someone carries a deep, hidden well of bitterness, you feel that dense, toxic energy in your very bones. When a person harbors deep resentment toward your growing light and divine favor, the air itself tangibly shifts and becomes heavy long before a single, conscious word has been spoken. You have never been imagining these feelings, you have been accurately sensing them. Your spirit has the profound ability to read the truth of a situation, and a person long before your logical mind can catch up with the energetic facts. And here is the raw, intimate part you've likely never confessed to anyone. Sometimes this internal energy shift is so immediate and intense that your physical body reacts before your conscious thoughts can formulate. This is not a reaction localized in your stomach, but often a sudden, overwhelming wave of tiredness or a sudden burst of sharp irritation that feels entirely out of place. This intense reaction is not a sign of personal weakness, nor is it merely hypersensitivity. It is spiritual intelligence operating at its highest level. You were not created by the divine to navigate this world blindly. You were specifically created to detect the hidden truths that others skillfully conceal, sometimes even from themselves. The reason most conversations inexplicably die the moment this person walks into a room, the reason your hard-earned peace instantly evaporates, the reason your spirit becomes suddenly and urgently alert without any obvious cause, is straightforward. This person's energy doesn't meet you in harmony. It is designed to drain you of your life force. You don't lose energy because you are fundamentally weak. You lose it because your protective spirit is aggressively reacting to a hidden energetic threat. 2. The micro-attacks, Subtle comments that break your spirit. There is a distinct, insidious kind of attack that leaves behind no visible physical wounds, causes no loud, dramatic explosions, and involves no obvious, open confrontation. Yet somehow, this particular spiritual assault often hurts more profoundly than the battles you can clearly see and understand. Chosen one, you instinctively know precisely what I'm describing. It is the quiet, unexpected stab that is expertly delivered while simultaneously wrapped up in a seemingly kind smile. It is the cuff comment that sounds harmless and insignificant on the surface but sinks into your chest like a fine, poisoned needle. It manifests as the seemingly innocent joke that everyone else in the room laughs at wholeheartedly, except for you, because your spirit acutely felt the malicious intention hiding just beneath the lighthearted delivery. This specific family member has developed an unnatural mastery over the art of spiritual warfare, conducted through strategic whispers and subtle, passive-aggressive communication. They are experts at never striking directly or openly. Instead, they strike softly, often silently, and always with a calculated, precise strategy. The pattern of the micro-attack consistently begins the same way: an intensely sarcastic remark about your ambitions and dreams, an exquisitely subtle backhanded compliment about your most recent progress, or a carefully disguised, passive criticism hidden deep inside something they simply call just trying to help. You must now pay sharp attention to the underlying structure of their words. They will rarely, if ever, genuinely say, "I am so proud of your accomplishment." Instead, they will deliver a line like, "Wow, it must be nice to have all that free time to pursue your little project." They will never offer a heartfelt, sincere acknowledgement like, "You absolutely deserve this achievement and recognition." Instead, they will carefully murmur a discouraging phrase like, "Don't get too carried away with excitement. You know life can change fast." They will never uplift you with, "I see that you're steadily improving." They will counter with, I've honestly seen people do it much better, but I suppose this is adequate." The most painful part of this cycle is how they deliver these attacks in a tone that is so casual, so utterly nonchalant, that it forces you to immediately question whether the assault even happened at all. You walk away from the interaction completely confused, constantly wondering if you grossly misinterpreted their words, if you are simply being too sensitive, or if you completely imagined the undercurrent of hostility. But deep inside, your spirit has already registered the undeniable truth. That familiar tightening sensation you feel in your chest the moment after they speak, that quiet, sudden sadness you can't logically explain, that wave of self-doubt that washes over you even though you felt powerfully confident just minutes ago, that is your spirit accurately recognizing a direct hit even while your conscious mind struggles to find an excuse for their behavior. Chosen ones often make the mistake of ignoring these micro-attacks because they were often raised with a deep-seated mandate to keep the peace at absolutely any personal cost. You were constantly taught to be the bigger person, to not take things so personally, and to simply understand their complex personality. And because your inherent heart is deeply empathetic, forgiving, and intensely loyal, you tragically turn the emotional blade inward against yourself, instead of simply acknowledging the spiritual wound that has been inflicted. But your resilient spirit, it never ignores the attack. It precisely registers every subtle energetic shift, every tonal nuance, and the true meaning hidden behind the superficial meaning of the words. Your spirit knows the crucial difference between words genuinely meant to uplift and those fundamentally designed to quietly sabotage your self-confidence and momentum. What makes this spiritual warfare even more insidious and dangerous is how perfectly this person hides their profound discomfort with your steady, undeniable progress and growth. They absolutely do not want you to rise, but they will never explicitly vocalize that truth. Instead, they skillfully mask their raw envy behind lighthearted jokes. They cover their deep-seated resentment with a veneer of concern. They expertly disguise their internal fear of your growth as practical, rational advice. Every time you announce a new blessing, they instinctively find a subtle way to shrink the magnitude of the moment. Every time you achieve a significant success, they immediately find a flaw or a potential negative consequence to highlight and focus on. Every time the divine actively elevates you to a new level, they strategically introduce a seed of doubt, just enough to make you hesitate, to force you to question yourself, and to effectively interrupt the powerful momentum that God is actively building within your life. And here is the profound, undeniable pattern you've observed but never fully understood. Their subtle micro-attacks dramatically increase the very moment something genuinely good is about to happen in your life. Watch them with intentional closeness. They immediately become quieter, subtly colder, or oddly and instantly irritated whenever you share something genuinely positive and uplifting. They immediately shift the topic of conversation. They deliberately downplay your pure joy. They abruptly become distant, moody, or too busy for you. It's an undeniable truth. It's almost as if your authentic happiness poses a direct, existential threat to something deep inside them. Something they are absolutely unwilling to confront or acknowledge about themselves. Allow this profound truth to truly sit with you for a moment. These consistent reactions are not random coincidences. They are clear, unmistakable signals. These subtle, strategic strikes are precisely intended to break your spirit without ever outwardly breaking the family relationship. And that calculated intention is precisely what makes them so profoundly effective in their mission. But the very moment you clearly recognize this destructive pattern, the spiritual spell they cast is fundamentally broken. Have you noticed that the very instant you step into a significant blessing, they simultaneously step into a strange, inexplicable mood? 3. The emotional ambush. They only come when they need something. There comes a moment in every chosen one's journey when a painful, spiritual truth becomes utterly impossible to overlook or deny. The revelation is stark. Some people do not come into your life to love you. They come purely to use you. And when the person executing this parasitic behavior is a family member, the resulting emotional impact hits deeper than mere betrayal. It hits your very soul. This is the essence of the emotional ambush. The predictable pattern where someone shows up with intense urgency, dramatic energy, and a high level of intensity, but only and exclusively when they desperately need something from you. The very moment their personal crisis ends and their immediate need is met, they vanish completely, like an early morning fog dissolving in the sun. There are no follow-up calls to check on you, no offers of support, no genuine presence. Just profound silence until the next significant storm in their life inevitably drags them back to your emotional door, demanding your attention. This cycle often begins subtly. They reach out not to check on your well-being, but purely to immediately offload every burden, worry, and toxic emotional weight they are carrying. They systematically drain your valuable time with lengthy, circular conversations that never actually lead to a solution or positive action. They relentlessly drain your ears by repeating the exact same chaos and grievances you have already listened to 100 times before. They effectively drain your crucial emotional space by intensely spilling problems they have absolutely no intention of fixing or resolving themselves. You consistently find yourself trapped in the role of the listener, the constant fixer, the mandatory motivator, and the designated emotional paramedic, desperately patching up wounds that fundamentally do not belong to you or your spirit. But when the roles are unexpectedly reversed, when you desperately need a shoulder, when your spirit is profoundly exhausted, when your own heart is breaking under its own weight, they suddenly become either too busy, too tired, too overwhelmed by their own trivial concerns, or they simply entirely fail to respond to your outreach. This is not a balanced, reciprocal relationship built on mutual respect. This is pure spiritual extraction. They are not engaging in a genuine connection. They are simply and selfishly consuming your energy. Chosen ones often unconsciously assume the painful role of the healer in their families. You carry an immense light that radiates warmth to everyone else. but in the process of illuminating them, you sometimes suffer a quiet internal burn. You are the one who grew emotionally faster, spiritually deeper, and energetically brighter than those around you. Because of this powerful light, people who carry deep, unresolved wounds and heavy baggage are drawn to you like a powerful magnet to steel. They don't possess the self-awareness to understand precisely why they seek you out. They just instinctively know they feel dramatically better after completely releasing all their emotional burdens and heavy toxicity onto you. But here is the profound, critical part they will never willingly admit. They don't come to you to genuinely heal. They come to you solely to unload their mess. And the moment they feel the slightest sense of relief or lightening of their load, they abruptly disappear until the next crisis strikes. This family member consistently injects chaos into the center of every conversation they initiate. They arrive on your doorstep like a sudden storm, a barrage of tears, drama, confusion, and overwhelming urgency. By the time they finally finish speaking and depart, your spirit feels utterly wrung out, like a towel left abandoned in a torrential rainstorm. They leave you feeling anxious, scattered, and deeply drained, yet somehow internally responsible for their entire well-being. Meanwhile, they walk away noticeably lighter, suddenly energized, and profoundly relieved, because, without consciously realizing it, they successfully emptied their heaviness into you and your energy field. What makes this draining cycle so dangerous is that you often fail to see it happening in the moment. You mistakenly believe you are being optimally supportive. You convince yourself you are genuinely helping. You believe you are fulfilling the duties of a good family member. But the underlying truth is fundamentally spiritual. Your pure energy becomes their personal fuel source. Your peace becomes their temporary emotional bandage. Your internal strength becomes their perpetual crutch. Over time, this deeply parasitic pattern inevitably delays your own personal growth and spiritual evolution. Every time the divine attempts to elevate you to a higher plane of existence, this person strategically reappears with a new set of problems, new drama, and new emotional weight, effectively dragging you back down. Without fully noticing the long-term impact, you constantly put your own important life on pause in a futile effort to carry theirs. Your most important dreams begin to slow down, your creative spirit inexplicably dims, your sense of clarity and purpose begins to fade. This isn't because you suddenly became unmotivated or lazy. It's because your vital spirit is constantly exhausted from battling a spiritual war that is not yours to fight. God is exposing this draining dynamic now because He never fundamentally designed you to function as a permanent reservoir for someone else's perpetual dysfunction, self-inflicted chaos, and endless drama. You are not their personal therapist, their emotional sponge, their permanent escape route, or their 24/7 crisis hotline. You were meant to be a powerful healer for the world, not the constant, weary caretaker of one person's refusal to confront their self-imposed chaos. The very moment you truly understand this destructive cycle, something deep inside you will immediately begin to rise, to instinctively resist the pull, and to powerfully reclaim the precious energy that was never meant to be stolen from you. Now, here is the sharp, final revelation that will undoubtedly sting you with its truth, but will also unequivocally set you free. This specific toxic cycle is the direct, spiritual reason why your blessings consistently get delayed. Every single time God prepares to energetically push you forward and upward into your destiny, this person simultaneously pulls you back with their overwhelming chaos and immediate demands. And this is precisely why your deeply anticipated breakthroughs delay every single time they forcefully re-enter your life's immediate narrative. 4. The envious spirit. They compete without admitting it. There exists a distinct form of jealousy that doesn't manifest with screaming, open confrontation, or clear, visible self-disclosure. Yet, this insidious form of envy silently and effectively poisons the air the moment it enters your space. It is subtle, masterfully disguised, and just quiet enough to make you profoundly doubt your own perception, but simultaneously loud enough that your spirit feels its presence instantly and clearly. This is spiritual jealousy, the most dangerous kind, that intensely grows inside a family member who simply cannot tolerate the fact that you possess something they desperately lack. Divine favor, powerful inner strength, and a light that absolutely refuses to dim or be extinguished. This is not a simple, normal case of human envy. This is an all-consuming, high-level spiritual jealousy, which is the most destructive type precisely because it expertly hides under the socially acceptable masks of blood relation, family title, and tradition. Watch them with extreme focus. This person will never celebrate your successes with a genuine, whole heart. They will mimic celebration with their mouth and perform the motions, but their eyes will invariably expose the raw truth every single time. When other people openly praise you, they visibly shift in their seat with discomfort. When you speak honestly about your progress, they instantly change the subject or divert attention away from you. When something truly good and unexpected happens to you, their strained smile looks tight, obviously forced or strangely delayed, as if they needed a crucial extra second to forcefully swallow the bitterness that is rapidly rising in their chest. But here is the most revealing indicator of all. They aggressively compete with you without ever verbally admitting that any competition even exists between you two. The very moment you intentionally evolve and level up, they abruptly and urgently feel the need to also evolve. If you begin a process of radical self-improvement, they suddenly need to start improving too. If you purchase something new and important, they suddenly find a compelling reason to buy something immediately similar, often not because they genuinely needed the item, but because their ego simply cannot mentally tolerate seeing you rise without attempting to instantly match your altitude and level of achievement. They systematically mirror your choices, strategically copy your best ideas, hastily adopt your positive habits, and sometimes even overtly imitate your most cherished dreams. Yet, they will never, ever acknowledge that their sudden obsession and need to compete only began after they intently watched you succeed and found your path attractive. If you have ever wondered why they suddenly became intensely interested in the same obscure hobbies you love, why they started speaking and dressing exactly like you, or why they began planning their future following your blueprint, it is because your powerful transformation violently awakened their deep-seated insecurity and personal inadequacy. Instead of feeling genuinely inspired by your journey, they instantly feel existentially threatened. Instead of sincerely cheering your every move, they immediately begin meticulously measuring themselves against your achievements. Instead of peacefully growing beside you as a supportive peer, they immediately start frantically chasing behind you, not to learn and support, but simply to win the unseen competition. Chosen one, spiritual jealousy hits differently and far harder because it never originates from strangers you can easily dismiss. It comes directly from the people who intimately know your story, your deep wounds, and your personal battles. These are the people who should never logically envy you because they were active witnesses to your intense pain, yet they still quietly resent your current strength. These are the family members who personally witnessed your breakdowns, yet they still find ways to aggressively question your breakthroughs. These are the relatives who actively benefited from your kindness and generosity, yet they secretly despise the powerful spiritual glow that God has purposefully placed over you. This is the profound, spiritual reason why their verbal reactions never fully match their internal words or facial expressions. When you share your newest blessing, they will feign surprise and say, "Wow," but their eyes will clearly dim with displeasure. When you experience personal growth, they instinctively find a subtle, dismissive way to quickly downplay it. Anyone could do that, they rationalize. It's really not that big of a deal, they murmur. You're just lucky, they conclude. The devastating truth is that they love you when you are struggling. They can tolerate you when you are just average. But the very moment you authentically elevate and step into your power, something deep inside them violently breaks. Because your success serves as a glaring, constant reminder of the immense potential they either chose not to activate or failed to realize within themselves. What makes this specific spirit so profoundly draining is that it is perpetually watching you, studying your every move, meticulously measuring your achievements, and aggressively competing with you in a constant race that you never even agreed to enter. And you can profoundly feel this energetic reality, that strange, sudden heaviness when you share genuinely good news, that uneasy, awkward silence after you discuss a significant achievement, that immediate coldness when God blesses you unexpectedly and abundantly. Their toxic energy shifts dramatically, not because you did anything wrong, but because your powerful light instantly and aggressively confronted their personal shadow and stagnation. Spiritual jealousy operating within a family is particularly destructive because it is often expertly masked as sincere care, brilliantly disguised as helpful advice, and perfectly hidden behind socially acceptable phrases like, "I'm just trying to help you stay grounded and humble." But underneath these deceitful words lies a raw, painful truth they would never openly admit. Your undeniable success directly threatens their fragile identity. Your visible, rapid growth forces them to confront their own personal stagnation. Your clear, powerful calling exposes their lack of personal direction and intentionality. And this painful truth is precisely why your spirit feels instantly drained the moment they begin to imitate you and copy your life. It is not the imitation itself that is draining, it is the hidden, malicious intention driving it. They are not merely copying you because they genuinely admire you and your success. They are copying you because their ego simply refuses to see you ahead of them or on a higher spiritual level. Their internal system cannot handle the profound possibility that you were specifically chosen and anointed for something undeniably greater than they are. Take a necessary moment and seriously reflect on this. How many times in your life have you intentionally shrunk yourself and diminished your achievements to avoid triggering their inevitable envy? How often have you purposefully downplayed your wins and blessings just to keep the peace and harmony in the room? How often have you felt immense guilt for simply outgrowing the low, vibrational environment and comfort zone that they are still perfectly comfortable inhabiting? These repetitive experiences are not random coincidences. They are the undeniable symptoms of a spiritual force that drains you silently, constantly, and fundamentally deeply. 5. The sabotage pattern. They plant doubt, fear, or confusion in you, and here comes the intense climactic rise of tension. The ultimate truth that very few chosen ones ever fully recognize until it's far too late. This is the critical sign most chosen ones overlook, and it is the one that drains your spirit the fastest and most completely. There is a defining moment in every chosen one's spiritual journey, when you fully realize that the most dangerous, paralyzing attacks were never the loud, easily identifiable ones that shouted. They were the subtle, insidious ones that quietly whispered into your ear and soul. This family member has achieved complete mastery over the subtle art of spiritual redirection. They understand they don't need to physically block your path or stop you with a concrete barrier. They simply need to strategically plant tiny seeds of doubt, fear, and utter confusion into your mind and heart until you begin the process of vigorously sabotaging yourself, without ever consciously knowing why you are doing it. Their ultimate strategy is never loud or obvious. It is profoundly calculated. It is expertly disguised. It is a form of intense emotional warfare that is cleverly wrapped up in advice, perfectly cloaked in superficial concern, and softened with common phrases meant to sound genuinely protective, but which are fundamentally designed to persistently hold you back and keep you small. You must pay intense attention to this repetitive pattern. Every single time you make a firm decision to pursue an important dream, they immediately appear with a prepackaged, discouraging word or warning. Every time you breathe new life and energy into a new project, they instantly question your fundamental ability and resourcefulness. Every time you take a powerful step forward in faith, They strategically remind you of every single failure you have ever experienced in your past. This is not done to constructively help you grow. It is done purely to keep you from rising. They speak with an authoritative confidence, but their tone is visibly dripping with their own deep-seated insecurity. They speak as if they inherently know better than you, but deep down, they absolutely fear the inevitable consequences that will occur when you finally step fully into your powerful calling. It always begins with simple, innocent-sounding lines on the surface. Are you absolutely sure this is the right time to do that? That sounds incredibly risky. They caution, maybe you should just wait a little while longer. You are honestly thinking too big. You should be more realistic. They advise, what if it utterly doesn't work out? They demand, and the most emotionally manipulative line of all, you've completely changed. I really miss the old you. These are not expressions of genuine concern. These are spiritual chains. They are emotional ropes precisely meant to violently pull you back to the smaller, more controlled version of yourself that they feel perfectly comfortable manipulating and influencing. Because the very moment you truly evolve, they completely lose the ability to effectively influence you. And absolutely nothing threatens a sabotaging, controlling spirit more than you becoming spiritually awake, mentally strong, and perfectly aligned with God's purpose for your life. They are keenly aware of exactly what they are successfully accomplishing. They constantly question your decisions in a tone that is designed to make you feel fundamentally unreasonable or irrational. They harshly judge your life choices in a manner that is designed to make you feel inherently guilty and morally wrong. They skillfully make you second-guess your path until you are no longer sure if your biggest dreams are actually divine inspiration or merely a self-aggrandizing delusion. They maliciously twist your powerful confidence into arrogant pride, your strong intuition into excessive overthinking, and your divine calling into utter irresponsibility. And after they are finished delivering their destructive words, you inevitably walk away feeling smaller, significantly weaker, and profoundly uncertain, even though just 5 minutes prior, you felt clear, powerful, and absolutely ready for anything. Chosen one, this is not a mere coincidence. It is pure, calculated sabotage, and not the easily recognizable kind. This is the sophisticated sabotage that deceptively feels like love, sounds exactly like wisdom, and hides perfectly behind the protective shield of family loyalty. This person possesses an intimate knowledge of how to intensely manipulate your deep compassion and empathy. They know your spirit instinctively desires harmony and avoids conflict at all costs. They know your soft heart bends easily because you genuinely care deeply about them. And they ruthlessly exploit that natural softness to strategically shape your decisions, powerfully redirect your steps, and ultimately delay your spiritual destiny. But here is the ultimate revelation that frees you. Their destructive words were never actually about protecting you. They were entirely about protecting the small, limited version of themselves that simply could not emotionally handle your significant elevation and success. When you courageously choose yourself and your purpose, they immediately accuse you of being selfish and uncaring. When you courageously set and enforce healthy boundaries, they instantly call you distant and cold. When you choose to faithfully follow God's clear voice instead of their persistent, fearful opinions, they immediately claim you're suddenly acting strange and unpredictable. What they truly and deeply mean is, you are rapidly stepping into a powerful level of spiritual elevation that I cannot follow or control. The pervasive guilt you feel does not spiritually belong to you. The paralyzing doubt you feel does not belong to your truth. The intense confusion you feel is not a product of your own mind. These heavy emotions were all meticulously planted as strategic seeds specifically designed to drastically slow down your spiritual acceleration and momentum. And this is the exact, crucial point where everything fundamentally shifts in your life. This is the moment where the truth sharpens into a blade. This is the precise moment where God powerfully steps into your narrative. God is exposing this destructive influence now because your powerful next chapter simply cannot and will not Include any more voices that actively weaken your vital faith and courage. You are rapidly stepping into a glorious new season that demands unwavering clarity, not confusion, absolute faith, not paralyzing fear, bold courage, not crippling guilt, and powerful elevation, not debilitating stagnation. And before the final, ultimate revelation, the moment where every element in this entire message powerfully converges, I need you to hold onto this profound truth. Some of the painful delays you bitterly blamed on poor timing, some of the frustrating setbacks you wrongly blamed entirely on yourself, some of the lost, missed opportunities you sadly blamed on your own fear. They were never your fault to begin with. They were the direct, devastating result of an intensely negative voice that was expertly disguised as deep, protective love, but was fundamentally aligned against your purpose. As we now move into this powerful conclusion, remember this: you were never imagining the sabotage. You were miraculously surviving it against all odds. Now your time has come to be powerfully and completely freed from its influence forever. Chosen one, this is the moment where everything inside your spiritual core radically shifts. Not because I have delivered any brand new information, but because your receptive spirit has finally received the necessary confirmation for the truth it has been urgently trying to reveal to you for years. What has been draining you was never random bad luck. What has been exhausting you was never just normal family stress. What has been confusing you was never just the difficulty of life. It was a direct spiritual attack. And now that spiritual drain stands utterly exposed and powerless under the brilliant light of God's truth. The crippling weight you have been carrying for so long never belonged to you. The tiresome battles you constantly fought were never yours to fight. The persistent doubts, the deep guilt, the familiar heaviness, those were toxic seeds intentionally planted by a person who was spiritually never meant to shape your destiny or control your path. And today, God is definitively cutting every root of emotional fatigue, destroying every vicious cycle of spiritual blockage, and completely dissolving every suffocating fog of confusion that was directly tied to that person's influence and control. This is not a small, trivial shift. This is a divine, powerful release. Hear this truth clearly, chosen one. You are not spiritually responsible for perpetually carrying a person who absolutely refuses to make the necessary effort to grow and evolve themselves. Your inherent compassion does not require your personal destruction and spiritual ruin. Your powerful loyalty does not mandate your complete surrender and self-diminishment. You are never spiritually called to painfully shrink your light so that someone else could feel deceptively tall or less insecure. You were never assigned by God to deliberately dim your immense light so that another person could feel less threatened by your glow. You are spiritually responsible for only one supreme thing: fiercely protecting the powerful calling God placed over your life. And that magnificent calling is actively rising right now with more undeniable clarity, greater urgency, and immense, unstoppable power than you have ever experienced before. Something profound and powerful in the spiritual atmosphere immediately surrounding you is rapidly changing. Something deep within your resilient spirit is standing back up straight. Something fundamental in your mind is perfectly aligning with divine truth. You are rapidly stepping into a sacred season where your precious energy will no longer leak out through those hidden, constantly reopened wounds. A season where your hard-earned peace will be fiercely and unapologetically guarded. A season where your razor-sharp clarity returns with a renewed, powerful fire. A season where your inner strength rises without a single apology or explanation. God is not merely removing the source of the drain. He is actively and divinely restoring everything that was stolen from you because of that negative influence. Your precious vision, your innate confidence, your sense of direction, your boundless joy, your spiritual stamina, all of it is powerfully coming back to you, stronger and more radiant than it was before. Chosen one, this is far more than just a simple ending to a difficult chapter. This is the powerful threshold of a brand new realm of spiritual awareness. You now see the truth clearly. You now feel the energy differently. You now walk with a sharper, more accurate intuition and a divine authority that can absolutely never be manipulated again. The tremendous weight is lifting. The suffocating fog is rapidly fading. The destructive chains are powerfully breaking. And your beautiful spirit, your spirit is finally, completely free to rise and soar. Before you depart, please seal this definitive moment of release and power. Comment below, God is exposing it. Because the very instant the divine shows you the undeniable truth, everything in your life powerfully changes.